Welcome to Brand Rescue, a public relations podcast where we dig into the truth about what it's actually like to work in PR. I'm Whitney Lee. I ditched my fancy corporate job to freelance in small-town USA and ended up building an international PR agency. On this show, we skip all the BS and sugarcoating and get into the conversations our industry should be having. It's all real talk, and we love a hot take. Glad you're here. Let's get to it. Hey, friends. This is a pretty important and special episode today that I know that I have been needing to record for a long time. And to be honest, I've kind of avoided it and almost felt a little nervous and kept putting it off. Even once I decided I was going to share all of this, I continued to put it off. And so here we are. I'm not putting it off anymore. I know I've been needing to share a lot of this for a long time, but you'll understand as we dive into this story about kind of why I didn't share certain things. So there's kind of two sides for this podcast. Number one, I know some of you guys listen and you work in the industry and you really only know Whitney from the podcast or maybe Instagram or LinkedIn or however we have connected, right? You're here for more of the industry talk. Love it. Thank you. Glad you're here. Some of y'all may have been listening for a long, long time, and maybe others of you are just now diving in. But then I think there's also going to be another side of people that are listening to this episode, and these are probably personal friends, family, past clients, contacts, colleagues, kind of just anyone that I'm connected with on social media. And it's probably because a lot of them are wondering, a lot of y'all are probably like, where the heck is Whitney? Because I, for a hot minute there, kind of fell off the map. Not completely, right? But there was a lot about my life that I wasn't sharing, and that was kind of intentional. I definitely went dark for a while, besides to my, like my closest family, obviously, my family, my closest inner circle friends, my team, they have all kind of been privy to all of this going on, but I intentionally did not blast a lot of this on social media at all on purpose. Let's give you, backstory and everything. I have lived such an open life for my entire career. Basically, everything was all over the internet. Every job I took, every new client we got, every little aspect of the business was promoted. Also, I was at networking events literally 3 to 4 nights a week. My entire life revolved around this business, right? I hosted a show for a while. Many of you guys know that. I think it was like 4 or 5 years. Shout out to Jared and Get the Coast. I actually hosted a local news show for a while. So literally I was on camera constantly. And I think I just got to this point where I I wanted the pendulum to swing. This is so me also. Sometimes when I get to a point and I'm done with something, the pendulum swings really hard in the opposite direction. I am so aware that that's a Whitney trait. And sometimes it can be toxic, but whatever. So let me back up and give you some context, okay? So I graduated undergrad at Southern Miss and moved to Destin when I was 21 years old. I had no intentions of being there longer than literally a summer. I never considered myself one of those people obsessed with the beach. Like, I'm meant to live at the beach. No, not really. I mean, I like the beach. I do. I don't really like sand. Ugh. When it gets all over, it gets in your bathing suit, it gets in your car, it gets in your beach bag. Like, But anyway, the beach idea for Destin was literally just a fun, some friends were doing it. Hey, do you want to come with us? Sure. 21-year-old Whitney went off on a little adventure. And then I ended up getting married to a guy that really, really felt passionately about wanting to stay there. And I wasn't unhappy there. So I was like, okay, whatever. Like, we'll stay here. Then I got a really great job at the Hilton, and then I started a business. And I always kind of had this like, I would like to go somewhere else. I knew for my career, if I got in a bigger market, it would probably bring me more opportunities. But again, I started this business, and when the agency first started, we were so local that I was like, man, if I move away, first of all, I got to convince my husband to move away, which wasn't going to happen. And number two, if I move away, like, how am I going to do all these clients? Like, I would go meet with them in person, help them throw events, and I would come out and take, photos and stuff like that. So I was just like, I couldn't figure out how that would work, but I just had this feeling inside of me of like, I like it here just fine, but I think there's more that I want to explore. So I just had this fear of like, all of my clients would fire us if we weren't in town. Well, then obviously COVID hit and everything had to go remote. And actually that really helped because a lot of these clients that wanted me to drive and meet with them in person, just to do like our monthly meeting, they were okay with doing that on Zoom afterwards. And also, a lot of people in other markets that were like, we only hire people in our market, they started realizing, like, everything really is so digital that we can hire this girl in Florida. And even though we're over here in Texas, it still works, right? So, COVID did me a lot of favors. I ended up before COVID, long before COVID, got a divorce, was dating another guy for, gosh, like 6.5 years. He was an Air Force pilot. For anybody who doesn't know, there's a lot of Air Force bases in that Destin, Fort Walton area. So he was stationed there, which once again kept me in that area because he was there. And his he was stationed there at Hurlburt's. Here's where the Whitney goes dark section starts to happen. So him and I broke up at the end of 2022. Pretty life-changing breakup, and we were living together, so in his house near base. So naturally, I had to find somewhere else to live. I was buying a house in Pensacola at the time, and never really had intentions of living in Pensacola, but this was strictly going to be like an Airbnb opportunity. Their downtown has minimal hotels and their downtown is poppin'. So I bought this cute little new build house that also has a carriage house and everything. I bought that. It's like, if you know Pensacola, it's downtown, really close to the Wahoo Stadium and Joe Patty's and all that. So bomb location for an Airbnb. But when my relationship ended, I had to move. I was like, wait, where am I going to live? So the Pensacola house closed right around the time him and I were breaking up. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just like go post up in my investment house for a hot second. Also, it was kind of a safe move, right? Like I wasn't so far out of Destin. I could still drive over there. And I did. I would drive over occasionally for client work and whatnot. Like I'd drive over a couple times a week, but again, it's like 30 miles away, but an hour with traffic. So that was kind of a safe little baby step out of Destin. So I posted up in Pensacola for about, I moved in around Black Friday of 2022. I was there for around a year. And I was like, you know what? Me being in Pensacola hasn't really affected anything happening with my clients over Destin 30A. In fact, most people didn't even realize it. I purposely did not blast this whole thing. Number one, I was going through this massive breakup and really didn't want to blast that all over the internet. I don't know why people do, but I don't. So it's not like anything bad happened, but again, it's just not something I want to blast all over the internet. Like, why? So, I didn't really share that move over to Pensacola just because I didn't really need to. I was still going to be around town, pop in here and there. And I just thought to myself, like, most people probably won't even notice. And they didn't. Okay. So around the fall of 2023, I was like, what if I had a conference up in, or down in Tampa and also an event in South Florida. So I was like, what if I got a place in Tampa for like I don't know, a month or 6 weeks. So that way I don't have to keep driving back and forth for the 2 events in Tampa and the one in West Palm. I was like, what if I just like get an Airbnb down here for like 6 weeks? So I did. And that was so fun. I love Tampa, and nobody noticed. And I was like, "Ooh, okay, no one even noticed." Like, everything in work went off without a hitch. Nobody even asked. I jumped on the calls just like normal. Like, I just worked from Tampa. So I was like, "I'm gonna do this again." I had a conference that November in Nashville. So same thing, went up to Nashville for over a month, worked from up there, just like normal. Nobody noticed. Cool. Not my team, but like clients, in general, nobody really noticed. So then I was like, this is really fun. And I always had this dream of like going digital nomad. But it just sounded, I'm a planner, right? And it just sounded so logistically crazy of like, how do you even do that? Like, how do you, like, do you stay in each city for like a month? Like, what do you do? I just got this wild hair and I was like, I'm going to freaking do this. I'm going to do it. And, also I think part of my itch to do digital nomad was to like figure out where do I want to be? Like I worked so hard to develop a fully remote business that would allow me to work from anywhere. That was my dream from the get-go. I always said, I'm like, I have no desire to make this like an office where people got to come into the office every day. Nope. I want freedom. Okay. And also I think there's a lot of benefit to having fully remote. You can hire endless talent. Also, I think there's a lot of distraction and drama that happens when you get people in an office place. There's lots of reasons. Anyway, I wanted a fully remote company from the beginning. So anyway, I was like, I have the freedom I have always wanted. Actually, both of my dogs had passed away. No longer had the boyfriend tying me down there anymore. So I was like, where do I want to live? Like, now I can do it. And I was like, God, I don't really know. There's so many options. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go 2024 digital nomad and spend some time in different parts of the country and see what I think. So sure enough, I did a little planning. I only planned the first 2 cities. And at the beginning of 2024, I packed my Volvo. I had a Volvo XC90, packed it to the ceiling. And I had a friend from college living in the house in Pensacola. So that was he was holding down the fort. Most of my stuff was still there, but I just packed up the car with what I needed, clothes, office stuff, a little kitchen stuff, whatever I needed. So 2024 hit the road. I started in Austin, Texas, did that for the month of January, rented a tiny house. That was so fun. Went on to Phoenix. I did Phoenix for actually like 6 or 8 weeks because I knew I loved that area so much and I wanted to spend a good amount of time there to see what it would be like to live there. Then I went up and did Grand Canyon, Page to see like Horseshoe Bend, Antelope Canyon, I went up to Moab, went over to Denver for 6 weeks, we can't even go through the whole list right now. Like, it's pretty wild. I did Montreal. I had to fly up there for a conference, back to Nashville. I left my car in St. Louis, and flew down to Baton Rouge for a FAM event at the Hilton Baton Rouge we were doing. Then flew up to Richmond, Virginia to kick off a new client at the Hilton Richmond, flew back to Florida for an event, went back to St. Louis, got my car. It sat there for literally a month. Shout out to my boy JP for keeping my car safe at his hotel. So, then drove up to Chicago, did Chicago for a month. I freaking love Chicago. Drove over to Columbus, Ohio for a conference, did a conference there for a few days. And then it was my birthday. It was around August. And I was like, dude, what do I want to do for my birthday this year? And the world is my oyster. Like, what do I want to do for my birthday? And I was like, I want to go to London. So literally 2 days before, I booked a plane ticket, hopped on a plane, left my car in Columbus, Ohio, packed to the ceiling with all of my stuff, including my like Mac desktop, like, oh geez. Anyway, left my car in Columbus, flew over to London, worked in London, went down and went to Portugal for a week and a half, flew back to Florida, all these things. Okay. Did all of this and told nobody. again, besides my family, inner circle friends, and my team, nobody noticed. The clients didn't notice. Nobody noticed. When I got back up to my car, I decided to do New England for the fall because I've always wanted to see New England in the fall. And honestly, I don't think I'd ever been up past DC. Um, yeah, I don't think I've been further north than DC ever in my life. So I was like, I need to see like New England. I had never been to freaking New York City. Okay. Um, so anyway, I went through New England for the fall. And actually a very dramatic turn in the story. I was driving through Maine on my way to Bar Harbor, and came to and I was on back roads, and I was about 2 hours from Bar Harbor, 2.5 hours. I was coming from Burlington, Vermont. I had spent a few days in Burlington, Vermont. Very interesting town. That's a whole other topic. And I was on my way to Bar Harbor and came to a very strange intersection. It's kind of a long story, but I was hit by an 18-wheeler, a logging truck, that blew through a yellow light going 65 miles an hour. I was hit driver's side with my car packed to the ceiling. He hit my front left tire, spun me all the way around. And I honestly have no idea how I'm alive right now. I remember the moment that, okay, so first of all, I never saw him coming. I had my hands at 10 and 2. I was listening to a podcast, and I had looked both ways. And it's kind of an interesting intersection. It's like a hairpin, like where you really cannot see, and there's trees on all sides. This is back roads. So it's a 4-way intersection. So it's not like one of those wrecks where you all of a sudden see the other car coming and you're like, oh no, they're going to hit me. Like you see it. I'm literally just driving with my hands at 10 and 2. And all of a sudden I saw all white, and it was the airbag hitting me. Airbag? Is that even I'm having like a moment. I'm like, airbag? It's okay. So I saw the airbag hitting me in the face. Airbag. I don't even know if that's the right word. I don't like talking about this, and I get really anxious talking about it. So anyway, you know what I mean. And I remember like the moment that my brain started computing what was happening, I could feel his truck like pushing my car, like scraping my car around in a circle. And the airbag had deployed and hit me in the face. And they always say that you like see white when you're dying. And I remember my brain all of a sudden saying like my internal dialogue was like, am I dying right now? It was really, it is so true if you've ever been in a car accident. And that was my first car accident. I had never been in besides like somebody bumping into me at a red light, you know what I mean? Like nothing major, like a first real car accident. Time really does slow down. It slows down hard. I still remember the exact moment. So anyway, thank God he missed my door by literally like an inch. He gives me so much anxiety to think about this. So, but it's important to the story, and it's important to the whole year. So anyway, it spun me all the way around, and of course, one thing I learned is that your iPhone knows when you get in a car accident, and whoever is listed as your ICE contact, it actually sends them a text message. So my mom, dad, sister, and brother-in-law all at the same time got a text message that said, you're receiving this text message because it's been detected that Whitney was in a car accident. You are listed as one of her emergency contacts. Here is her live location. And it gives them a map with your exact location, even if you're not sharing location. Okay, that's a very cool feature, but you also probably could understand the amount of panic that set into my parents and my sister and everyone immediately. So I mean, the car flipped around, and before I could even like fully come to a stop, Volvo is over the sound speaker that's like, Volvo, how many people are in the car? We've called 911. Is everyone safe? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like literally so frozen. I can't even speak. My hands are still on the wheel, gripping so hard, and I'm like shaking. My phone starts ringing. It slung my phone off the dock onto my passenger seat. My phone starts ringing, and of course, it's my mom. So I reach over and I try to, it's like swipe to answer. My hand was so shaky, I couldn't swipe to answer. So finally, I answer the call, and my mom's like, I just got this text message. Ah! And all I could say was like, Mom, I was in a car accident, but I'm okay. There's no blood. I'm okay. Give me 20 minutes. Uh, 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 and she's like, oh my God, okay. So anyway, a guy that was behind me opened my passenger door to try to help me out. Anyway, the ambulance came. You know what's crazy is like I was physically unharmed. The only thing on me that actually got hurt was the bottom, like the base of the palm of my hand, like where your wrist meets your hand, that like the heel, I guess, of your palm. Um I had gripped the wheel so tightly that my fingernails, of course I keep my nails done. You you probably know this. My nails dug into that and made me bleed a little bit because I gripped the wheel that tight. Um and yeah, that was the only thing that was harmed on me, and every single one of my possessions in the vehicle was completely unharmed. All the possessions were fine because he hit the front. Now, the front end of the Volvo was literally destroyed. This was a logging truck carrying like a ton of trees. So anyway, the cops are like, we can take you to your closest family member. I'm like, yeah, no, that's in South Mississippi. So they drive me 20 minutes down the road to some small town in Maine, dump me off at an Enterprise rent-a-car, and they're like, bye, have a nice day. Oh, and here's a business card of the junkyard where we took your Volvo. I'm like, cool. So I rent a Tahoe. This is 20 minutes after the wreck, 25 maybe. By the time the ambulance like checked me out and made sure, yeah, I was very mentally swimmy in my head of like, oh my God, what, like just in shock, honestly. I can't believe they let me rent a car in that mental condition, but okay. So they gave me, I rented a Tahoe and I drove back out to the middle of nowhere, Maine, to the junkyard, and I backed the Tahoe into the junkyard, behind the Volvo, and I literally got all of my life's possessions out of that Volvo. And they took the tag off and they were like, give us the keys. This thing is totaled and you'll never see it again. And I'm like, all right. Peace out, Veronica the Volvo. Thank you so much for keeping me safe. I will say this, Volvo's claim to fame is that no one has ever died in an XC90, and I am living proof of that. So, that was a great car. Thank you, Volvo. And also to note, the car accident happened on September 11th. So, what an awful day. So anyway, I had no other choice. I already had an Airbnb booked in Bar Harbor, and so I had no other choice than to just keep going. So I loaded everything out of the Volvo into the Tahoe, and I drove on to Bar Harbor 2.5 more hours. And I remember getting to the Airbnb. I just felt like I was in a dream. And I was no appetite, no anything. Just like in the fetal position, like shaking. But the next morning I had a very important meeting. One of our clients had a new VP, and that was supposed to be the first time I was meeting her. So I got up the next morning, just like always, and put my face on and got on work calls. So I did end up finishing, that was September 11th. So I did the rest of the way through New England, made my way back down through Providence and went to Newport, Rhode Island. And then I woke up in Newport, Rhode Island, probably like the first week of October. And I was like, it's time to freaking go home. I was supposed to be going to New York City after that, and I was gonna do a month in New York City, which has been, like, my dream. Don't even get me started. Like, I've been trying to go to New York, like, forever, for the past 10 years, and even had trips planned. There's a lot more deeper meaning to New York that I won't share on this podcast. But there were very significant reasons why those trips to New York kept getting canceled, and anyway, the New York thing just kept not working out. I booked an Airbnb. They came back and they said this was a scam. So we, we obviously will refund your money. So I booked a second place. That person came back to me and said, "Hey, this is our home and we were going to be traveling, but our trip got canceled. So we're going to be home and we can't rent you the place." So they canceled the second time. Then I got this third place in Brooklyn and it was so cute and had a rooftop and everything. Um, Booked that place and I was like, okay, perfect. Like, I'm a big believer, like everything always works out in your favor. Like, this is the best place of all three. So boom, I'll be in Brooklyn for a month. This is gonna be so awesome. And also I could leave my car at a friend's outside of the city and not have to drive and stuff for a while because as you could imagine, I didn't really want to drive a vehicle at that moment. I was like, It'll give me a whole month to kind of like calm down from all of this. I won't have to drive. I'll just use city transit. This is perfect." The third place came back and said, "Hey, the person who's renting it before you is extending, so we can't host you anymore." And I'm like, okay, at this point, I think this is a freaking sign from the universe. Like, it's not time to go to New York. As bad as I want to go to New York, it's not time to go to New York. So, and I just kind of hit this mental and emotional wall of like, I almost just died. And it's really hard to operate like normal. It's hard to pretend like everything's okay when you just had this like life-changing experience and you're trying to like run a business and lead your team and also travel and you're terrified to get behind the wheel of a car and you can't sleep at night because you're having like crazy nightmares about everything that just happened to you. So it was like I just hit this wall and I was like, it's freaking time to go home. It's time to go home. So I woke up in Newport, Rhode Island. I was supposed to be there 3 more days and I contacted the Airbnb and I was like, I don't care if you don't refund me, but I'm leaving. Actually, they did refund me, which was great. So I got up and I drove from Newport, Rhode Island back to Pensacola in like 2 days. Meanwhile, there were massive hurricanes headed straight for Pensacola, and everybody's like, no, don't come home yet. Like, there's a hurricane coming. And I was like, you don't understand. I am not scared of a hurricane. Okay. I grew up in the South. I am not afraid of a freaking hurricane. I lived in Florida for 17 years. I'm not afraid of a hurricane. Okay. Unless it's a cat 4 or 5 and it's coming straight for me, I don't evacuate. I'll place my bets that it's going to turn. And I was like, well, actually, you know what? I've never been to Asheville, North Carolina. I've always wanted to go. I was like, maybe I'll stop in Asheville and like just for like a long weekend. And then by the time, then I'll drive back down the rest of the way. That'll be a great way to break up the drive. But something in my gut was like, nah, girl, it's time to go home. Time to go home. And so I put the pedal to the metal. I stopped in Richmond, saw a client, spent the night there. The next day, drove all the way to Atlanta. And then on the day that the hurricane was hitting, I drove from Atlanta to Pensacola. Very interesting enough, if you guys remember, this is again fall of 2024. That's when those hurricanes made it all the way up to Asheville and actually ended up like really destroying Asheville, which that's unheard of for a hurricane to get that to be on land. The moment a hurricane hits land, it loses power. So for it to maintain that level of power to get all the way up to the Carolinas and still inflict that much damage is absolutely insane. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories about that. And I would love a freaking conspiracy theory, but we don't have time for that today. So anyway, isn't that interesting though, that I was going to stop in Asheville and that hurricane to avoid the hurricane, and the hurricane ended up going to Asheville and destroying it. Listen to your gut, people. Listen to your gut. So anyway, I made it back home for the rest of the year. I had a few other trips to take. But at the end of 2024, I wrapped it up with Mexico, Austin, things in Mexico and Boston, a conference in Vegas, obviously the holidays in Mississippi with my family. And at the end of 2024, I was like, okay, I got to chill on all this travel. The wreck just did a freaking number on me. And also, I just was like, I can't keep driving like this. I don't even like to drive a car. I didn't even have a car anymore. I turned in the rental and I just like went without a car for like several months. which was interesting. Anyway, so of all the places, I was like, where was my favorite the whole year? Like, there are cities that you would visit, but there's not cities that you would live, you know? I'm trying to think of one, like cities that I love to visit, but I would never live. I don't know. Anyway, but I was like, I really loved Phoenix. I've always just had this thing. The first time I ever came to Phoenix, I was like, there's something about this place. Like my first visit, I was like, I'm going to freaking move here. And I was like, I really just want to go back to Phoenix. Even halfway through the year, I was like, man, I really would just love to go back to Arizona. So at the end of 2024, I put the house up for rent. And the carriage house, I took it off Airbnb and put long-term renters in both of them. And at the beginning of 2025, after 2 feet of snow or a foot of snow hit Pensacola, I came back out to Arizona and was in Arizona all of 2025, minus the summer. The summer in Arizona is garbage, deathly hot, and also just nothing to do because everyone leaves. During the summer, I did travel a bunch, but 2024, I did 32 cities and 4 countries in 52 weeks. Yeah. And what's funny is I didn't blast this on the internet. I didn't tell clients. Again, I didn't tell anybody, and nothing changed. Nothing changed. So it's like, why didn't I share all of this? Well, let me say this. At the beginning of 2026, I now, when I'm recording this episode, I am in Phoenix right now. I've been in Phoenix since the beginning of 2025, minus last summer. I dipped out for 3 months. But then came back in the fall of 2025, and I've been here ever since. Absolutely love it here. I don't know if it's forever, but it's so far away from home is the problem. And I have no intention of moving back to Mississippi, but I love my family so much, and it kills me to be this far away from them where I could not just get in a car. That'd be like a 24-hour drive to get to my parents or my sister right now. My brother lives in Paris, so there's no driving to get to him. And when I say Paris, I mean France, not Texas. Um, there's no driving to get to him, but it pains me to not be so at least accessible to them. Like I have to buy a plane ticket, get on a plane, blah, 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 and fly to New Orleans and then drive an hour and a half to get to them. Like that's the closest path to being to my family. And so that irks me a little bit. But desert life has been so fun and so different. The people West Coast are very different. I will say this, everyone in Arizona is from the Midwest, basically, or it's people from Southern California that are like, dude, California lost its mind. I can't live there anymore. And they all moved here. So it's a mixture of Southern California and Midwestern people. No one here is from the South at all. And the moment I open my mouth, everybody's like, oh my God, your accent. They think I'm so Southern, which is hilarious. Because if you think this is Southern, my God, you have never been to the South. So anyway, that's the scoop on Arizona. And probably by the time y'all are hearing this episode, I'm on another adventure because I am dipping out for the summer of 2026, and we're going much bigger than just bebopping around the States this year. We're going international, and I have a really big birthday coming up this year. I'm gonna be freaking 40 years old this summer, and that just doesn't seem real. So I just was like, I needed to do something really big. What a fun era of life this is, you know? And I have learned that time waits for no one, and neither should you, you know? Um, so yeah, why didn't I share all of this? To be honest, I think it's the most cringe thing in the world when people share everything on social media. Like, no one cares what you ate for breakfast. No one cares what you pulled out of your ear at the doctor's office. No, like, why are we oversharing everything? Like, I think there's got to be. I mean, I'm not saying to pull a Whitney and just like go dark and no one knows where you are. It was kind of fun, to be honest. But there's really no need to share every aspect of our lives. And honestly, I think the true flex is like not sharing everything. The true flex is like, dude, where is Whitney? Like, I see her post stuff, but like, where is she living? Where is she working? Like, what's she doing? Like, what is she still in Destin? Like, that's the questions that I've been getting for the last 3 years. And I've just kind of been flying under the radar. And it feels so freeing to not share everything and for everyone not to know every little aspect about what's going on in my life. And maybe this will surprise you, but I don't love all the attention on me. I am a Leo, and Leos love attention. And in some ways, I do. I don't mind it. Obviously, I'm the face of my business, and I have no problem. I do this podcast. I talk on camera all the time. Like, it's not a fear of being seen on camera or anything like that. That's not it. It's just like in a world full of everyone oversharing, something felt so good to just fly under the radar. And you know what else feels really good? After being in Destin for 16, 17 years, I really don't even know how long. And I mean, obviously, that's a very small town. So we all know each other. Everybody knows everybody. It's small town world, everybody knows everybody's business. You're getting a divorce, who you're dating, you're having another baby, you lost your job. Like everybody knows everything about everyone. Okay. Small town USA. And you can't go anywhere without seeing everybody that you know. It feels so amazing to just be a nobody, you know? Like I went around to all those cities throughout 2024 and I'm just no one. I'm just some girl. You know what I mean? Like you don't see a million people, you don't it's so refreshing to just like do life without being under a microscope all the time, you know? So I don't and even with the wreck, like, I didn't wanna share that on social media, number 1, because it was really traumatizing for me, um, and I just don't need that level of attention. I didn't share when I left Destin because I didn't want there to be this massive, like, "Oh, let's do a going away party. Oh, Whitney's leaving," and making it this big ordeal, like, ugh, I just don't need all that attention on me. I don't. I'm fine with being the face of my business. I'm fine with sharing stuff on the podcast. And when the mood strikes me, I get on my stories and I talk. But I just don't feel the need to have all that attention on me and my life, you know? So my fears from sharing this, from doing this. I know what held me back from doing it for so long. Number 1, I thought clients were going to fire us if we weren't local. Well, obviously that didn't happen. In fact, over 2024, the business grew significantly. That was one of our biggest years in business. Okay. So I think the business grew even more because of me getting out and meeting people outside of my little tiny bubble in Destin, Florida. Number 2, I thought clients, if they knew, they would think that I wasn't working. People already have this skewed vision of what PR is and what we do for a living. They literally think I go to like martini parties and just giggle all day long. Yeah, sure. So I was afraid that they would just think that, if I posted pictures, all the fun stuff from each city, that they're like, oh, she's not working. She's in Moab, hiking the national arches, which I did, but not during work hours. Like during the entire year, I mean, I had a whole team. Like I can't just dip out. Yes, they are incredible and very self-sufficient, but like we have to be there for each other. So Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I was at a computer. It might be in a coffee shop in Moab, Utah. It might be in my Airbnb in Burlington, Vermont. Who knows and who cares? Same with my team. They're all over the nation, Like, I just didn't want my clients to see all that fun stuff. They see the highlight reel and think that I'm not working. Or, for my team to think that I wasn't working, which obviously they knew because we're online with each other all the time. We're in meetings together all the time. We're on GChat all the time and all that. So, but all those fears that clients were going to fire us, that the business was going to slow down, or people were going to think I wasn't working, all that kind of stuff. That's all just crap I was telling myself and holding myself back from a life-changing adventure. So I'm glad that I pushed through all those fears. And I will say this, here's what I learned from that year. Number one, flexibility. I am a planner, and think about that whole year ahead of you. Like I would, I had planned like the first two cities, and after that, I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to go. But I would plan most stuff like I'd get to one city and then plan the next two, and then I'd get to the next city and I'd plan the next two. But there were times that I couldn't do that. For example, when I was headed to St. Louis, I was trying to do that FAM event at the Hilton Baton Rouge, but I was waiting on the client to confirm the date, number one, and number two, to confirm my plane tickets because they were buying the plane tickets, right? So I couldn't even decide like, do I fly out of Denver or if the date gets pushed back a week, then I could drive through Kansas City, see Courtney and Michael, and then I could fly out of Kansas City. Or, oh man, the date got pushed back again. Okay, so maybe I fly and I'll stop in St. Louis and maybe my friend JP can watch my car and then I could fly out of St. Louis. Like I couldn't even buy plane tickets because I was like in this limbo of someone else's decision being dictating where I was going. So it made me feel very out of control, which really tested me because I don't even let a team member, a manager, I don't let an assistant, no one manages my calendar but me. Okay. So it forced me to be flexible. But what I actually learned was like sometimes, oh man, I was leaving Denver in 2 days and I had no idea where I was going. How about that? Like I literally had to be out of my Airbnb in Denver on June, I can't remember, 17th or something like that. And I had no idea where I was headed next. Yeah. And I was so anxious about it, but I was like, you know what? I just learned, I'm like, just put your stuff in the car and let's go. The worst thing that you can do is just start driving east. I knew I wanted to go to Chicago. So I was like, just start heading towards Chicago. And whenever they freaking approve the plane ticket, stop in one of those cities, buy a plane ticket and leave your car, And I learned that sometimes it actually worked out so much better for me when I didn't have everything planned out. And now I kind of like thrive on that. For this trip this summer, I have some stuff planned, but I have a whole month where I was like, no, I'm just going to leave that open and like see where the wind blows me, and now I actually kind of love it. So I'm really grateful that it pushed me out of that control freak plan everything zone into more flexibility. I also learned that I can and will figure anything out. Okay. I mean, look at what happened with the wreck. It's like your car just got totaled. You're in the middle of nowhere, Maine. You're by yourself. You're literally in the fetal position, but I figured it out. I got a freaking rental car. I got the stuff out of the car. It's just like one step at a time. I have developed, even from owning this business, but also from the trip, I've just developed this belief in myself that I'm like, I don't know how to do everything. I don't. I'm human. I'm going to screw stuff up, but I'll figure it out. Even if I screw it up, I will figure it out, So I also really enjoyed doing all of that alone. I did so much of that year by myself, traveling by myself. And it's actually like, I really recommend traveling by yourself. You learn so much about yourself and it's actually amazing. Everyone's like, I can't believe you did all that by yourself. A woman just by herself. And I'm like, yeah, so I did it. And here I am. I survived. Like, you learn so much about yourself by spending so much time alone. And after that really significant breakup, I think I just really needed that. So I'm not saying I want to travel alone forever. I would love to have a ride or die travel partner, and I'm sure that is on the way. But for that year, I think I like legit needed that alone time. I also learned that we're all gonna die. And some of the trivial crap that I was worrying about, like, flew out the window the moment I thought I was gonna die, And also PTSD is such a real thing, y'all. I can't imagine if the things that went on in my head happened just from a car accident, imagine what some of these military people go through. It just gives me a next level amount of respect for people that put their lives on the line like that. PTSD is such a real thing. I still have occasional nightmares from the wreck, or I just have intrusive thoughts like throughout my day of like how the wreck could have ended differently. Like he hit my front left tire. How did that not take my legs off, you know? Or I would have these visions of the car flipping over and me landing on my neck and I couldn't breathe and like trying to move and my neck was broken and I'm like realizing that I'm gonna die, you know? Like, sorry, that gets really graphic, but those are some of the intrusive thoughts that I would have, and I still kind of have them sometimes. It's been almost 2 years. In September, it'll be 2 years since the car accident, and I still have such a challenge taking a right on red. That's not even how the wreck happened. I was not taking a right on red, but he hit me from the left side. So I think it's that fear of somebody hitting me from the left side. Even when the coast is fully clear, I don't trust it anymore, you know? I'm like, it's because I didn't see him. And so I have this fear of what I can't see. And also being, I guess, hit from the left side. So PTSD is a real thing. So, and I will say this, if you've ever considered something like digital nomad, it's actually easier than you think. Stop overthinking it and just go. Just book the first place, the first 2 places, and just go. And what's the worst that can happen is you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you get in your car and you go back home or something. I don't know. Like, just if you have that feeling in your heart and mind, don't get to the end of this life and be like, wow, I should have done that. My number one fear in life, I would say 2 things actually. They share the top, is not living up to my potential. Like, for whatever reason, not trying, not doing, not giving something a chance, and like not living up to my potential, which leads into part B of my greatest fear, is regret. It's like getting to 85-year-old Whitney and being like, I wish I would have done that, you know? So anyway, that catches y'all up to speed on where the heck I've been and why I've been under the radar, and why I guess now I'm okay with sharing a little more. I think the business is in a completely different place. I think most of my fear of not sharing was, what would our clients think? And now I actually see it as the opposite, as like, if I own a PR agency focused on travel, tourism, hospitality, it actually strengthens my ability to do this job. To travel a lot. And now we work with clients literally all over the nation and world. So it's like, they don't care where I am. And that is so refreshing. And again, freedom is everything to me. I wanted a business that would give me this level of freedom. And I feel really, really grateful to be where I'm at. So stay tuned for more details on 2026's trip. I'll literally probably be on a plane when this episode drops. So, but this episode would get way too long if we went into this whole year. So maybe we'll do another update on what's going to happen summer 2026. Or if you're following me on social media, you probably have already seen it. So thanks for tuning in to hear this. This is much longer than most of the episodes I do, but I felt like it was time to just kind of share what's been going on in my life and how the traveling affected business, and in a positive way. Honestly, I didn't see any negatives of it. Nothing. The team grew, the agency grew, I grew. So anyway, what a wild ride. Thank you for listening. Always, feel free to reach out to me. I am an open book, even though I don't blast things. I'm the type of person that's like, if you want to know something, just ask, and I always usually say, like, if you got guts enough to ask me directly, I got guts enough to answer you with the truth. It's not that I don't want to tell people the truth. Anyone who approached me or asked me, I would tell them what I was doing, but I just don't need feel the need to blast every aspect of my life all over the internet. So, thank you for tuning in. We will see you on the next episode. That's it for today. If something in this episode landed for you, share it, screenshot it, and send it to someone in the industry who needs to hear it. And come connect with me personally on Instagram @TheWhitneyLee, or you can find me on LinkedIn. See you next week.